What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Stokastic Fantasy Football channel, and we are here talking quarterbacks today. Flag plant quarterbacks, the My Guys episode, the one where we talk about the quarterbacks we are trying to target in every single draft. Again, not 3 rounds ahead of ADP, not 15 picks ahead of ADP. We're trying to get them at ADP, and in most leagues, you only need one of them. So we're going to give you a few options. We're going to give you four. Breaking it down with me today, as always, Nick Lepre. Follow him on Twitter at Notorious FNTSY. How are you this morning, bud?
I'm doing pretty solid today. I'm pretty excited to talk about these quarterbacks, and I hope the comment section is excited as well. Let us know down below in the comment section who your number one quarterback is to draft this season.
Yeah, let us know what you think of the choices that we made. You're probably gonna say we're idiots. We're okay. We're big boys. We can take it. But these are the players that at their ADPs they can offer a league winning upside and also a decent floor because this is a weekly sport. We don't want to go, we don't want the spike weeks if we get a bunch of 7 to 9 point games in the quarterback position because that absolutely destroys you. So
Yeah.
these are our picks. We'll go in ADP order from the earliest ADP to the latest ADP. And then I think you've got an honorable mention of a fifth quarterback as well, who's essentially free in one quarterback drafts, and it is a fantastic target in two quarterback drafts. Let's begin here. Hey, shout out to our sponsor, Underdog, as well. If you're looking at YouTube, you can see the ad at the bottom of your screen. We'll talk about them in a minute. Ready to get into this?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's ride. Number one, Jalen Hurts. I'm sorry, guys. If you've heard it on other podcasts, other YouTube channels, and it sounds unoriginal, I'm sorry. Because this is just the right answer at quarterback this year. The ADP is right. We're talking about typically going outside the top 70 picks in your home league drafts in a one quarterback league. And your probability of being the number one quarterback at the end of the season in fantasy points per game is pretty much as high as all the quarterbacks going above him. You get a
Yeah.
slight drop off from the players like Josh Allen all the way down to Kyler Murray. That's why they're going ahead of him in ADP. But if he finishes the number one quarterback in the NFL, it shouldn't be any surprise at all. I mean, this is a guy who's not afraid to go deep. In air yards per attempt last year, number 3 in the NFL. In deep ball accuracy rating on playerprofiler.com, he was number 10 in the NFL. He's got incredible weapons like Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert, and then you bring in a transformative offensive weapon like A.J. Brown. This is my pick for the next Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs in the NFL. It's Jalen Hurts. His rushing ability, remember, man, number 1 in total carries last year, number 2 among quarterbacks in carries per game, number 2 in red zone carries, and number 1 if you put that as a per game stat. Now, Lamar Jackson, fully healthy, may compete with him for rushing attempts. But when you include the rushing upside, even the league average efficiency as a passer, the propensity to go deep, and the addition of a world-class wide receiver like A.J. Brown, everything is in order for a Jalen Hurts world beater season. This is that top 6 quarterback you want. Trey Lance is interesting. It's like pushing the envelope one quarterback more. The upside is there for him, but the downside is way different. Jalen Hurts, man, my number 1 flag plant play in the top tier of the quarterback this year.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Every single time in a redraft league, when he falls to the 6th round to me, I find it very difficult not to draft him, if I'm being honest with you, because the guys going ahead of him, while I like, obviously, guys like sometimes even Joe Burrow who goes ahead of him, but Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, I like those guys, but I would rather just wait the additional round and get Jalen Hurts, who I really think could be the number 1 quarterback in all of fantasy football. And if you're reaching on a guy like Josh Allen in like the 2nd or the 3rd round, it makes no sense to me when you could literally get the number 1 quarterback in fantasy football 2 to 3 rounds later with Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts is going to have a big year this season. I think the team is going to allow him to throw the ball a little bit more. And while that may be a negative to some because, so much of his ability is from his rushing upside, right, for fantasy football, it's not like he's just going to stop running. It's not like his feet are going to be stuck in cement in the pocket. He's still going to be running the ball. And I like all the additions. Like you said, the addition of A.J. Brown means so much to me. It means that they really believe in Jalen Hurts in my mind. He was great for fantasy last year, and it's kind of a no-brainer that he should be great this year.
I think people realize at this point if they've played fantasy football for any period of time, how important, they call it a cheat code, how important rushing is for quarterbacks. People realize it at this point. But when you're talking about 9.3 carries per game, 22 to 25% of those carries being inside the red zone, meaning the touchdown upside is significantly higher. I don't think people realize how important it is. That's really all it is. I don't think people realize how important rushing upside is. And even if you are just a mediocre passer, you can be a fantasy cheat code. If you are by chance a good passer, because maybe your number one wide receiver is an elite separator, your number two wide receiver was a top 7 pick in the NFL, and you have an elite tight end to add on top of that, and Jalen Reagor, sorry, good things could happen. Bottom line, Jalen Hurts is the perfect ADP to take a chance at that number one upside at the quarterback position. Who's your first?
My first guy is going to be my main man, old man, Tampa Bay Tom Brady. Right now coming off the board as the quarterback 10 at pick 88.6. Now, Tom Brady does look a little messed up right now. I don't know if you saw that video. It looks like he just went through some facial reconstruction surgery or something. But at the end of the day, he's still Tom Brady, and this is going to be a team that is going to be incredibly pass heavy. And even though this guy is basically 7,000 years old, it doesn't seem to matter at all. The weapons in Tampa, this might be the best top 4 wide receivers that is even I've ever seen in the NFL, if I'm being honest with you. I know Godwin might miss a couple of games, but there's also a lot of positive reports that say he could be good to go week 1. Now, will that be the Chris Godwin we've seen in the past in week 1, or will that be a shell of Chris Godwin who's kind of just out there playing football? I'm not too sure. But I do know at some point this season, we are going to see all of Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Russell Gage, as well as Julio Jones out there. Now, I understand that Gronk is gone, but they're probably just going to use Julio Jones as Rob Gronkowski. I know that Julio has been allergic to scoring touchdowns in the past, but maybe this year they just force feed the ball to Julio in the red zone. I really like this offense. I like how Tom is set up here, and I don't care about age at all. I understand 1 year maybe Tom Brady will fall off, but if I'm being honest with you, why would he have came back out of retirement if he didn't think he had the juice still to keep going? So I love Tom this year. And at quarterback number 10, it almost seems disrespectful. I understand he doesn't have that crazy rushing upside. He has literally 0 rushing upside, but he makes up with it by the fact that they throw so much and that he can throw so many passing touchdowns with very few interceptions.
Let's just lay it all out there for Tom Brady. The downside, they've had some interior offensive line injury issues early in the preseason. They're dealing with wide receiver issues despite being very, very deep at that position. I mean, they just cut quality prospects like Tyler Johnson in cut day yesterday. And we know that older players fall off fast. A 45-year-old quarterback could fall off in 1 year and just be out of the league. This is probably, very probably, Tom Brady's last year. Yes. Those are the downsides. We laid them all out. Here's what he was last year. Number 1 in pass attempts. Number 1 in deep ball attempts. Number 1 in red zone attempts. Number 1 in team pass plays per game. Number 1 in team pace of play. Number 1 in protection rate. That needs to stay the same. Number 1 in total passing yards. Number 1 in air yards. Number 2 in total money throws that take elite skill or accuracy to make happen. Number 1 in passing touchdowns. Number 3 in fantasy points per game. Again, rushing upside still beats that number 1 overall passing upside. So the number 1 overall quarterback for Tom Brady is actually pretty low probability. But number 3 and above, that's fantastic. I think he is a elite quarterback pick this year, especially considering the fact he goes after those rushers, Jalen Hurts and Trey Lance. He's my favorite passing quarterback at ADP in the league this year. You're getting all the upside of Mahomes, essentially, as a passer at a much lower ADP, but no rushing upside.
I completely agree with all of what you said. I really think that this is going to be probably Tom Brady's last year, but hey, maybe the reason why they cut one of those wide receivers is because Julian Edelman's coming back. I don't know if you saw that. That's more of a joke. But Julian Edelman said he's ready to come back. He's ready to play. Let's see if it happens.
That would be a funny thing because they said no, over and over again. But the timing, I guess this is now when Julian Edelman has been retired long enough where he could theoretically come back as a Tampa Bay Buck. I don't think that's happening. In a league of mine that starts, it's a super flex, but it also starts 3 regular flexes. So a ton of starters. I actually took Brady, Gage, and Julio and I expect to start them as a mini stack every single week. Uh, Obviously, Godwin coming back from that injury, Evans with a history of some soft tissue injuries, not like Julio and Gage have been the beacon of health either. But I think there's going to be so many passes in that offense that if you don't have to pick, like you're starting multiple flexes every week, I think it's not a bad way to play things. That's a great pick. Tom Brady's a great pick for your flag plant play. Love it. All right, guys. Just want to talk to you for a minute about Underdog Fantasy. You see the banner at the bottom of the screen if you're watching on YouTube, and you can click the link in the description below. They are the best place to play best ball fantasy football contests this year. No waiver wires, no trades. You just draft your team and win huge cash prizes. They've got the Pomeranian tournaments that fill incredibly fast because they have a 0% rake and a $3 entry. They got the puppy tournaments all summer long that with the $5 entry and huge 5 figures and above in total cash prizes. And then you've got this $10 million Best Ball Mania 3 tournament that has been raging on all summer. You can enter up to 150 times, but they will actually match your first deposit over there on Underdog Fantasy up to $100 when you use promo code Stokastic, Stokastic. Just make a deposit over there. They will match it up to $100. And when you make a deposit over there as well, we will offer the Stokastic Best Ball Draft Kit and Fantasy Football Draft Kit absolutely free, $70 value free with that promo code over on Underdog. All right, my second player, guys, Matthew Stafford is still underrated. After the best season of his career, the fact that he's got some elbow issues that he needs to maintain, again, maintenance is the word that they continually use, we're just not valuing him correctly. The number 11 quarterback in fantasy points per game, I think, was diminished by the fact that he had a softer end of the season than we saw. He started off really, really hot. But in expected fantasy points per game, again, that is a measure of the overall opportunity volume of the offense he plays for. Number 4 in expected fantasy points per game. As good as Stafford's season was, and as good as Cooper Kupp's season was, there was actually fantasy meat left on the bone. And I think that is being underrated this year. When you add talents like Allen Robinson as well, this team was number 4 in air yards, number 3 in passing yards, and only 8th in passing attempts. So they were efficient compared to their number of attempts. Their protection rate could get better. Their yards per attempt was elite, and I think that remains the same. I think this player could be top 5 in points per game in this second year in the Rams system. People don't realize that there's actually more upside for Matthew Stafford with Robinson and Kupp and Higbee in this offense. Man, Matthew Stafford, especially where he's going among quarterbacks, you can often get him outside the top 110 picks in your fantasy draft, sometimes going below, like Burrow, Rodgers, Carr sometimes even. People are getting nervous about Matthew Stafford. And I think at that ADP, the upside is just insane.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I love Matthew Stafford this year. Obviously, you're getting a quarterback that is linked to another team that has just an amazing receiver corps, right? We have obviously Cooper Kupp, who's the best receiver in the NFL last year. Now they have Allen Robinson, and there's still some talks that maybe they bring back in Odell Beckham Jr. So that would be 3 excellent wide receivers. Even if they don't bring him back, they still have some other wide receivers as well. Van Jefferson on the team as well, and Tyler Higbee. So I really like Matthew Stafford this year. I think he's kind of in the range of those quarterbacks where it's kind of boring, right? Because Matthew Stafford doesn't necessarily give me the vibes that he'll be the number 1 quarterback in fantasy, but he also doesn't give me the vibe where he's going to absolutely suck ass and completely ruin your team. So I like Matthew Stafford a decent amount. He's one of my highest owned quarterbacks in best ball because I love the stack of him and Allen Robinson and Cooper Kupp. I just think it's going to be amazing this year. And I expect the LA Rams to put up a crazy amount of points week in and week out. And I expect them to roll the Buffalo Bills in week 1.
Whoa. Okay, a couple of things. We got to unpack. Sorry, sometimes you're just rolling, you're doing your thing in a podcast, you're agreeing with each other, and then suddenly you say things, what? Okay, so first of all, are you saying that people who take Cooper Kupp at the top of their draft should also target Allen Robinson and Matthew Stafford and try to double stack players at that level in their season-long fantasy leagues?
Not necessarily. In my best ball drafts, I've done that a million times. In redraft, I would be fine doing it, though, especially when you get such an elite offense. Now, I think when you go crazy and stack up like 2 guys on the Jets, that's fucking insane. But if you stack up two guys on a team that are as good as the LA Rams, I think you can do it. I won a league a couple of years ago with Antonio Brown, Juju, and Big Ben all on the exact same team. Things worked out well. So if you're able to find one of those elite offenses, then I'm perfectly fine doing it. But I definitely would not reach on Allen Robinson.
Okay. Good first part. Well, first, don't reach on Allen Robinson, but try to get him around ADP. He's one of our favorite plays this year. But
Yeah.
I actually think there is an argument to be made that, especially in sharper home leagues. Now, I just got a notification as you were talking that someone spent $11 on a player who just got cut and then immediately dropped them. So they just spent 11 fab dollars. They just burned it. They just flushed it down the toilet. That was an interesting moment. But if we're trying to play in more savvy leagues than that, then I do think these kinds of stacks can add hidden upside to your team without a whole lot of downside, because the correlation of the wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 on a team is mostly random. But we do know that there are weeks when they're both going to perform well. So when you get that randomness, then you're in a pretty good shape. I think that volatility sometimes hurts you in leagues where you're just aiming for like 4th or 5th place and kind of coasting. But a lot of people play in sharper leagues than that. You're aiming for first place. The upside of a team with top 10 passing attempts, you know how much is going to Kupp and Robinson. I'm fine with that stack. Now, why are they going to roll the Bills in week 1?
Well, because on average, normally over the last 10 years, most of the time, the Super Bowl winner wins in week 1. And a lot of people are betting on the Bills. I'm going to go with the past trend. I think the Rams are going to win, and I think the Rams might roll the Bills, if I'm being honest with you. And the Bills are without star cornerback, their best cornerback on their team, whose name is escaping my brain right now.
White. Yeah, Trey White is not going to play the first few weeks. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, Cooper Kupp's going to have his way. 2 tugs, at least.
We shall see. All right, hit us with your final flag plant player. And I think you said you had an honorable mention as well. So you have the floor, my friend.
Yes, so first we'll go with the player that I chose initially, and then we'll go with the honorable mention. So the first player to talk about here is Ryan Tannehill, quarterback of the Tennessee Titans. Current ADP, quarterback 25, pick 190.7. So he's basically undrafted. I've done a bunch of redraft leagues where he is undrafted, and I'm going to be honest with you, I think people are heavily discrediting Ryan Tannehill and what Ryan Tannehill has done over the last, I'd say last year he wasn't so hot, but the prior 2 seasons to that, when he took over for Marcus Mariota and when he played the whole year in 2020, people are seeming to just forget how good of a quarterback Ryan Tannehill was, and the fact that Ryan Tannehill also has some sneaky rushing upside as well. In 2019, when he played 12 games for the Tennessee Titans after he took over, he was quarterback 9 in points per game. 2020, also quarterback 9 in points per game. And then last year, like Humpty Dumpty, he fell off the wall because Derrick Henry got hurt, and he was the quarterback 14 in points per game. Yet, he's coming off the board as quarterback number 25. In 2 quarterback leagues, I honestly think Ryan Tannehill is a steal. And if you just load up on running backs and receivers early, and you want to wait on a quarterback that has top 12 upside, going outside the top 24, I really think Ryan Tannehill is the answer this season. I understand that they lose A.J. Brown, who we both talked up when we were talking about Jalen Hurts. But at the end of the day, it's not like Robert Woods and Treylon Burks are some scrubs. I understand they're not as good as A.J. Brown. There are a lot of wide receivers that aren't as good as A.J. Brown in the NFL with how good he is. But at the end of the day, I think Tannehill is being underrated. I think he's a significantly better player than people are giving him credit for. And he also has some solid rushing upside, especially in the touchdown compartment. He scored 7 rushing touchdowns last year and 7 the season prior. The season prior to that in 2019, he scored 4, but he only played in 12 games. So I think he could score 5+ rushing touchdowns this year. And if he throws potentially 28 to 30 passing touchdowns, this guy could really finish as a top 12 quarterback.
His efficiency from 2019 to 2021 as a passer on a per pass basis is essentially the same as Patrick Mahomes. How much of that is A.J. Brown? We're about to find out. But he has rushing upside, he has the right ADP, and he's a way better per pass efficiency player than people realize. Pretty good for Ryan Tannehill. Who is your honorable mention? I really liked this pick when you mentioned him to me.
Yeah, I was just going to mention real quick, Ryan Tannehill is also incredibly accurate. He ranked 6th in accuracy last
Hmm.
year, and then he ranked 2nd in red zone accuracy. So he's a very accurate quarterback. My honorable mention is Baker Mayfield, quarterback now of the Carolina Panthers. Now, he is coming off the board actually technically earlier than Tannehill, which honestly surprised me, if I'm being honest with you, because a couple of weeks ago, Baker Mayfield was a guy that even in these deep underdog drafts, people weren't even taking Baker Mayfield. So
Yeah.
quarterback 24, pick 182.7. So just a couple of picks ahead of Ryan Tannehill. So let me just bring things back to looking at what Baker Mayfield was prior to his injury. I understand last year, Nick Baker Mayfield looked like dog shit, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, once he got hurt, his season was basically over. The problem is Baker Mayfield has too much of an ego, too much pride to quit on the team. He's just going to go out there and try to play. Things didn't work out well, obviously. So in the 16 games prior to Baker Mayfield's injury, he had a 100.6 passer rating with a 22 touchdown to 5 interception ratio. After his injury, he had a 72.8 passer rating with a 11 touchdown to 10 interception ratio. So it's
Yeah.
pretty clear that prior to his injury, he was
There it
pretty
is.
good. Now, I understand that the Cleveland Browns offensive line might be better than the Carolina Panthers. But in terms of wide receiver core, this is one of the, not necessarily the better wide receiver cores in the NFL and the Panthers, right? They have DJ Moore and then a bunch of other guys like Robbie Anderson. But at the end of the day, having a guy like DJ Moore, having someone you can reliably dump the ball off to, like Christian McCaffrey, who those are just free points for Baker Mayfield, because all he has to do is look 3 feet to the right, throw the ball to him, and Christian McCaffrey could take that thing 80 yards to the house. So at the end of the day, I love Baker Mayfield this season. I think he is being drastically underrated, and I wouldn't be surprised if he really silenced everyone. And he even said that he was going to fuck up the Cleveland Browns week 1, and I hope that is the case. I love Baker Mayfield, always have, and I'm excited for his matchups this season. And I don't honestly think there's even a way Sam Darnold becomes the starting quarterback unless Baker just is awful, and I really don't see that happening.
Well, he's also quite injured now as well.
Yeah.
There you have it, guys. The flag plant quarterbacks for 2022. Jalen Hurts, Matthew Stafford, Tom Brady, the GOAT himself, and 2 late round options, Ryan Tannehill and Baker Mayfield, who now has Laviska Shenault. It's all roses from here. Laviska Shenault, the missing piece. Please, we had him so insanely high in our rankings last year. It was such a big flag plant for us, but hey, sometimes you swing and miss. That's the way things go. But I think these players, especially the ones up near the top in ADP, perfect ADPs to get you that number 1 upside and that high floor as well. And then some late rounders to add as well, so you can get a juggernaut in all other positions. Follow him at Notorious FNTSY. He's Nick Lepper. You can follow me at Draftaholic. I'm Matt Savoca. We are the Stokastic Fantasy Football channel, getting very, very close to the start of week 1. For Nick, I'm Matt. And for Underdog, of course, check out that promo code below. We'll see you guys later.